Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're stretching the timeline of history way, way back to take a slow, deep dive into the extraordinary biological superpowers of a creature you probably have in your very own backyard. You probably think you know this little hopper. You've likely seen it 100 times, right? Just springing out of the grass as you walk by on a sunny day. But get ready to rethink absolutely everything you thought you knew, because we are looking at nature's ultimate survival machine.
Okay, let's kick things off with a bit of a mystery. I want you to picture the absolute oldest surviving bug on our planet. Go ahead, what comes to mind? Maybe some prehistoric, heavily armored beetle that looks like a literal tank. Or, I don't know, perhaps some terrifying, multi-legged deep cave crawler that hasn't seen the sun in millennia. It's so easy to assume the ultimate survivor would look like a monster straight out of a sci-fi movie. But just hold that thought for a second.
250 million. Just take a breath and let the sheer, staggering weight of that number truly sink in. 250 million years. Long, long before any familiar historical landmarks, way before an asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs, and literally before the continents even drifted into the shapes they hold today, this creature was already here. It was surviving, it was adapting, and it was flat out thriving through mass extinctions.
So what's the answer to our mystery? It's the common grasshopper. Yep, no kidding. That little green insect you just casually brushed past in your garden on a summer afternoon. We really need to radically reframe how we view this everyday bug because it is officially the most ancient living insect on Earth. Think about that. It has outlasted nearly everything else that has ever walked, crawled, or flown across the surface of our planet.
So naturally, this leads us to a pretty obvious but deeply fascinating question. How exactly does a relatively small, seemingly vulnerable insect survive for 250 million years? What kind of physiological toolkit allows a single species to stick around through entire geological eons, effortlessly surviving global catastrophes that completely wiped out absolute giants? Well, we're going to take a little tour of their anatomy to find out exactly how they pull off this evolutionary magic trick.
We tend to think of them as just, simple bugs. But their sensory capabilities are absolutely staggering. For starters, grasshoppers possess 3 simple eyes. And listen, these aren't just redundant or useless traits. They grant incredible night vision. Imagine navigating a totally hostile, volatile, prehistoric world with built-in night goggles. Being able to clearly spot movement and chart a path when the rest of the world is pitch black, that is a massive, immediate survival advantage.
But their sensory superpowers certainly don't stop at their exceptional vision. Not even close. To truly understand their next major evolutionary advantage, we can actually anchor their biology to a much more infamous, highly resilient survivor that we are all, unfortunately, pretty familiar with, the household cockroach. These two insects share a very specific, highly refined anatomical feature that literally acts as a lifeline. Just like cockroaches, grasshoppers possess a highly specialized pair of antennae. And they don't just use these to blindly feel their way around the dirt, hoping they don't bump into anything. No, they use them to actively detect and smell their surroundings. They are effectively walking radar dishes. They are constantly pulling in intricate environmental signals from the air, reading chemical changes, and sniffing out danger. This allows them to avoid predators and perfectly navigate hostile terrain way before a threat even comes into view.
All right, so let's recap. They have built-in night vision to see in the dark, and they act as sophisticated radar dishes to smell threats on the wind. Pretty impressive, right? But early detection is really only half the battle. When a predator does inevitably approach, or when the environment abruptly changes, simply running or jumping away isn't always going to cut it. To truly survive across eons, they had to develop something far more deceptive. They needed an ultimate, foolproof defense mechanism.
And here it is. A few specific grasshopper species possess a literal shape-shifting superpower, camouflage. But wait, this isn't just the static disguise that they happen to be born with. They have the remarkable ability to dynamically alter their color to match their immediate surroundings. If they land in an entirely new, unfamiliar environment, they can shift their pigment to blend perfectly into the background, effectively disappearing from predators in plain sight. It is an absolute masterclass in biological deception. Let's tie all of this biological genius together, because it really is like a giant puzzle perfectly snapping into place. Starting 250 million years ago, they emerged. And over the next millions of years, while giant reptiles ruled and then fell, and while massive global catastrophes completely reshaped the planet, they survived. And they did it by relying on that exact, highly precise toolkit, utilizing their dark vision, leveraging their incredibly acute sense of smell, and deploying expert camouflage. Those exact, refined traits are the reason they are sitting safely in the present day.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today. But I want to leave you with a final, really provocative thought here. If they have survived 250 million years operating in the dark, constantly adapting, and flawlessly blending into the background, what else are they hiding? The next time you see a grasshopper casually resting on a leaf in your backyard, remember, you aren't just looking at a simple bug. You are looking at 250 million years of evolutionary perfection. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.